What does it take to be a judge? I have been a judge for the variance board of a city, settling disputes between citizens and the city on land use. There's a panel of 5 judges. If there was a dispute between a citizen and the city on how land was to be used, or if it could be used, then they appealed to us. We were the last word. We could override any city ordinance, and we could override any city official. It was a very powerful position, a position to be taken seriously. And all cities have them. So if you're interested in learning about being a judge, see if you can get on the variance board, or board of adjustments, it might be called. There was a case where a man had bought a lot, an empty lot, like this one. Now this lot is in California, and it's much smaller than the one that I was dealing with in Utah. If I remember correctly, it was something about 14,000 square feet. The city came out and measured his lot and found it to come up short of being able to build a house. So he appealed to the Board of Adjustments. He had to pay a small fee to have his case heard. He had to pay a small fee, but it would be decided right then and there. The dispute would be over. Well, we listened to the city's case of why this man could not build a house on the lot that he bought. And then we listened to the citizen. It turned out that the size of the lot was 1 1/2 square feet short of meeting the city standards. Ordinances of a city are designed to keep the city's culture, its flavor, as you will, its flavor intact. However, the variance board is there in case the law or ordinance is not quite just to an individual, as in this case. After we listened to the evidence presented both by the city and the individual, there is a discussion going on among the judges. I sat there silently, listening to the debate of the other 4 judges. And that debate must have gone on for at least a half an hour, maybe even 45 minutes. So I was writing some notes of my own down, as some of my own thoughts of what I might say. Finally, the chairman of the board turned to me and said, "What do you think?" And I said to the city mayor and manager, "What does the city have if we don't let him build a house on his lot?" The city said, "We have a lot full of weeds." I asked, "What does the citizen have if we do not let him build a house?" He said, "He has a lot full of weeds." I go, "Right, for 1 1/2 square feet. Now 1 1/2 square feet is about like this. There's about that much land short of meeting the code." This was a perfect example of what the variance board was created for. When an ordinance or law does not apply fairly to an individual. I said, "Let him build." Within a couple of minutes, all 4 judges voted to let him build. That was the end of the case. We overrode the city ordinance because of 1 1/2 square feet. And we left. We went home. The next day at work, the citizen came by my restaurant. He walked in the door, and I had never seen him before the meeting where we were deciding his case. He walked in and he said, "Hi, I wanted to thank you for deciding in my favor." He said, "I've never eaten at your restaurant. I've never bought anything from you. So I wanted to thank you for deciding in my favor. I said this wasn't about my restaurant. It wasn't about my customers. It was about land use. And it was about when a law should not apply. A judge has no business in allowing his personal feelings to enter into a case or into the decision of the case. And he cannot follow the law as if the law is the Word of God. He has to understand the intent of the law, the reason for the law. And for him to do that, he has to go back to the Constitution. That the Constitution was written and formulated by men who understood that law can be fallible, that men are fallible, that mistakes are made, and that there must be a device to appeal, to correct things. And that is why the Variance Board exists, just for that reason, to protect the individual. Our country is not great because it's a great country. Our country is great because it protected the individual. Now we've lost that in our courts today. There's no protection in some cases from a judge, from a false accuser, from law. Before coming out to make the video, I was reading on false arrest. And simply because the person was innocent does not constitute false arrest. And there's very few mechanisms for a person to correct it, to change it, to have the dispute settled. This is part of what's missing. This is part of what we're lacking, and this is part of the reason why society's in the decline. It's those protection measures and mechanisms built right into the laws that provide safety for our citizens. I'm going to be doing a video soon on some judges. I'm going to name the judges, give you their addresses, and I'm going to tell you some of the things they said, as close to verbatim as possible. And you will see how they maybe had some sort of legal basis. They had found some sort of law to give them support to violate everything we hold dear as free Americans. I'll try to say exactly what they said and how they said it, to show you how ridiculous it could be and how they could violate everything good. I will try to reiterate what they've said as accurately as I heard it said, and to show you how ridiculous some judges are, and when they have no evidence, how far afield they go. In settling the dispute for the vacant lot, to me, it was very clear-cut. Because in any lot, there's square footage that the city will not allow you to use. And in this particular case, I think there was 1,200 square feet that he could not use as the basis of the size of his lot. And he comes up 1 1/2 square foot short. Now I don't know if the city official that measured it had some sort of problem with this guy, because to correct that 1 1/2 square feet would just be the tiniest little mistake on the base. But because the guy was so surprised that I had ruled in his favor, it seems like he had experienced quite a bit of favoritism against him, nepotism, cliquish, and had not received justice in the past. At that time, that was a surprise for me that he was surprised. The greatest protection we have in this country does not come from the police. It does not come from the sheriff's department. It does not come from government and laws. It comes from us. The greatest protection we have in our society is other citizens, other people. So if the most powerful, most protective tool we have in our society is each other, let's use it. And use it wisely. Use it fairly. Use it justly, intelligently. Use some wisdom. The greatest protection we have in our society does not come from law enforcement. It comes from us protecting each other. The Variance Board is an example of that. The Constitution is an example of that. But it's now being violated because of the lack of perjury charges being pressed against perjurers. More videos to come. MacGyver, I love you. I miss you. And I hope you're well.